Welcome to Elevate Your Event, your favorite podcast for transforming fundraising events. Join us weekly for expert tips and creative ideas to make your next event a standout success.
Today, we're diving into the world of school fundraising with Stephanie Davern from Read-A-Thon. We'll be talking all about how to get kids excited about reading while also raising some serious funds. From digital challenges to friendly competitions, we'll explore how Read-A-Thon is making it fun and easy to raise money, one page at a time.
Welcome back to the Elevate Your Event podcast, where we talk about all the various ways you can make your fundraising event better and
fun.
More fun, for sure. And so we went out and we did a huge search for fun. And look, we found Stephanie Davern from Read-A-Thon. Is that right?
I never knew I would be introduced as like a fun person, but I'm going with it.
Well, we've been chatting since we started this podcast, and you guys missed all the best stuff.
Lots of fun.
Yeah, we talked about everything. It's over. We're done. Stephanie, we are so pleased to have you on the podcast. Go ahead, give us a little bit of background on yourself and your business and what you guys do.
Okay, so Stephanie Davern with Read-A-Thon, as you so kindly introduced me. I've been in education and fundraising since I can't even remember when. And, you know, as you hit your 50s, maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But I've been in fundraising forever and ever. Love education. I mean, my mom was a teacher. So just growing up, I was always just surrounded and immersed with books and loved it. And through happenstance, because I went down a different path after school, I was a mechanical engineer in turbo machinery. Nice. That seems fun, is it not? If you're like, yeah, well, how do you go with that? And ended up at a book event for Scholastic. And when I was there, they said, oh, you seem to really like reading, and we need somebody that likes reading to fill in for a role that we need. And it kind of launched everything from there, because they were looking for somebody to work with nonprofits. And I love working with nonprofits in schools. And so there it began. And through my journey brought me through kind of a series of happenstance to Read-A-Thon, which I'm thrilled and I love. And it's amazing. And it just makes me happy every single day. So Read-A-Thon, I feel like we're changing making a generational change and changing the whole narrative within the space. So kids, school signs up, kids are encouraged to read, which is just like such a fundamental thing these days, all the way across.
I would agree. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like it's a lost thing with some of the generation this day and age, or?
You know, that's a great question. I think it's changed, right? So we're in this digital age where people are on their devices constantly, as we were talking about before, not having your phone on. And so I think people are, number one, reading differently. I think they're listening to podcasts and great other ways of learning how to read. But I think kind of like people lose sight of just sitting down with a good book. You love reading, you love the smell of it, you love the feel of it. And for kids, especially when they're introduced these days to technology so early, they're not learning how to read in the same way that we all did, right? They're spot reading across a device. And I think people are just stretched these days too. They're running to sports, they're going to school, they're working different jobs, and the focus isn't on that. It's on everything else. And then like that comes as kind of this ancillary extra thing.
Yeah, you know, when you're spending so much time on your phone with social media and Snapchat, how do you have time to read a good book? I mean, that's what I tell my kids, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. They are really good at taking selfies.
Yes.
They are spot on taking selfies. If you could commit that much time to reading, they'd be masters of reading. But yeah, I mean, I think in general, it's just changed. And I don't think, I think when we talk about fundraising specifically, there's so many different types of fundraising these days, and being able to bring a fundraiser back to having an educational focus and having it pair with what you're doing in school and being supportive of that versus, hey, we're selling a product. And now when we're selling this product, now you need to go do this outside of school and come pick it all up, or we're having, a jog-a-thon or something like that, where it's taking out of the school day instead of really supporting it.
Yeah. Well, we used to call ourselves one of the healthiest school fundraising options out there because, we're not getting people fat on popcorn or anything else, right? And so I have to put you in that category too, right? So
I wish that.
You run a school auction. It's not, you can burn some calories maybe a little bit, but you're not consuming calories. And if you're reading, you're doing the same thing. I love it. I agree.
You're only growing your brain.
It's funny. Yeah. Move-a-thons, jog-a-thons, read-a-thons. Yeah. I love all of those things. It gets people active and going. But hey, if you want to sell wrapping paper and popcorn and all that other kind of stuff, I suppose there's, some schools that still like to do that. It just seems expensive to me too, though.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
too.
I mean, I think it's kind of it's like, okay, well, what am I getting for my money?
Right.
And in this one, I think it's kind of invaluable. You're getting your education. You're
Smarter
supporting
people.
education. Right. You're getting smarter people that are going to end up being smarter in the long run. And then that's going to help you so that they can run an auction one day.
That's right.
Yeah.
So is Read-A-Thon, is it like a software where they, how does it work?
So when the school signs up, right, they give us all their information. We don't ask for any student data. We want to make sure that we're, respectful of privacy and data privacy laws. And when the school signs up, they have a dashboard so they can see everything for reading minutes from the student level all the way up to the school level. Kids with their families, they sign up and activate their accounts. And from there, they can see an entire dashboard. They can see their reading minutes and their goal. They can log reading sessions. They can enter them after the fact. They can share out that information with family and friends all over the world. So I think digital has really made it global. And then friends and family from all over the world through email, text, and social can donate to them. And in fact, we have the ability for a teacher during the day to log a classroom reading session on that dashboard, and it will enter it into each of the respective students' accounts. So really trying to make it like a holistic, global feeling event where it's not putting the onus on the parents anymore, and it's not putting the onus on volunteers. So, I mean, you guys have found that probably in your industry, it's changed over the past few years.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, look, I mean, you got to make it simple and easy, for people to get involved in it. Not a lot of work on their side, except for the reading part. They should. Yeah. So is it minutes based, or is it pages, or what?
So interesting question. So what would you think it would be, or why?
Well, I can tell you what it was when I was in elementary school. It was the number of pages you read. But
right. And so everybody would, like, when it was pages, you'd read these really easy books, because then you logged as many pages as you could. So we really want kids to read for fun and enjoy it. And I always say, find that just right book. So we do it on minutes because we want to make sure that kids are reading just for the sake of reading. And we even count it if a parent is reading to them, or if they're doing other activities that the school defines as learning how to read, because not every student reads and learns how to read in that traditional way.
Right.
So I always use my kids, who are now grown and very large, tall children. But my daughter was an avid reader, and she's dyslexic. So she learned in a very different way than my son, who was like, all I want to do is read a quick snippet in the Guinness Book of World Records. And then I would like you to tell me about what else I should know. And then as we're going down the road, we're going to play the alphabet game. So that's how he learned.
Right.
It's a little different. Yeah. So I think it's really, and I think it also encourages that time with family. So families have shifted in their dynamics too. And so if you can encourage that time that you just commit 20, 30 minutes a day to that, like, that makes a difference. And you can even have a parent that, maybe is transitionally literate, right? They haven't learned how to read yet, or they're in the process. They can still teach a child to read. Do a book walk, look at the pictures and walk them through and create your own stories. So I think there's a lot of different ways, but we really want it to be all inclusive, right? Anybody can participate. And in fact, we don't charge anything for our platform. So if a student wants to just read and not do any donations, they can still participate.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is, I think,
I love
very
it.
important.
I was going to say, if you weren't going to do minutes, I'm going back to a little bit of the trauma I had in third grade where I read, I'm not going to brag, but I would read probably a little bit more complicated books. And you're right. And when it was by pages, I had people that had 3 lines of text on a page and read these, hundreds of these books. And so I was like, you kind of need like a weighting algorithm on these books. Oh, well, if you're going to read Moby Dick, it's worth like 5 times,
right.
Then you get the multiplier on yours. And then everybody that's pledging has to multiply that out.
That's the engineer in me trying to figure out a way to make it fair.
I like that.
Or to incentivize you actually reading better stuff. I mean, well, it's funny. I mean, watching my kids grow up and looking at how they all learned differently and what they can tolerate. Like my oldest, I mean, he just filled my entire Kindle account with books. Like he would prefer to read them on a device, whereas my youngest, who I mean, she really does struggle a lot with reading. She's not a fast reader. She wants the physical book. She also listens to the audiobook at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And she goes along at a much slower pace, but she loves it. And she reads way more than any of my other kids combined. So it is fascinating to see kind of people's different learning styles and creating ways to accommodate them, I would think. But
well, Jeff was asking before this, well, is there any proof that they've done it?
Yeah. I used to walk up and down the halls in 3rd and 4th grade going, there is no way that kid read 100 pages last night.
Well, and that's the thing is, I mean, there is always, I say, in every single school, there is that one student that learns and figures out like, oh, here's what I can do.
Right.
In order to kind of cheat the system. And you normally, I mean, you can tell, right? It's the one kid that logs 180 minutes every single night without fail. And it's the same time. And we actually have a cap that we can put on a Read-A-Thon amount of minutes for a school specifically because of that. But we had one, but then you'll get kids. It's really hard because you'll get a student that loves it. Yeah. I mean, we had, we give away a Disney trip twice a year. So, for participating schools, and it's really fun. And I feel very lucky. I get to go out and see this, and I get to make the phone call where people like are crying and so happy. And it's, but we just had in December or January when we did the drawing, we had a family and the little boy is dyslexic, and they're like, it was painful, and his parents were actually tearing up as they were on camera talking to us about it. And the dad was crying. He's like, 5 minutes was like, you could see the pain and the struggle with him. And he goes, and we were just identifying that he was dyslexic, and it was, the little boy spoke so eloquently about it. And then what we ended up finding out is they go, and then Read-A-Thon comes along, right? And we're like, oh, this is going to be a disaster. Now he's going to have to read to help support the school. Well, he found the one prize that he really wanted. And we have a couple prize options or profit options. We have, a prize store, or we have where the school can kind of come up and sponsor their own types of rewards. And he wanted this one prize, and I don't even remember what it was. And his dad's like, well, then you're going to have to read in order to get people to donate to do that. And he read like 385 minutes.
Oh,
wow.
So you just find the motivation.
I think Read-A-Thon just gives people that outlet.
Now, when I'm involved in a Read-A-Thon, can I see what my classmates, how many minutes they've read? Is there a little bit of a leaderboard there so I can say, oh my gosh, I'm 60 minutes behind Elise over here?
You could put your little ×5 multiplier up on your board.
Yeah.
Like, I want that one. So in a class, the teacher can see the classroom, the admin of the entire school can see everybody, and the student can only see their own. However, most schools get pretty crazy creative, and they will do like classrooms that are in the lead, and they get to mark a book for every X number of minutes, and they have these different leaderboards going. They'll go on the announcements. We have all the reporting done for them. So they'll go and say, Stephanie's class is beating Jeff's class right now in both minutes and donations. Sorry to say. And then you'll hear these screams down the hall. And the next day, somebody else will take the lead. So they do it that way. There are schools that'll say, hey, we're doing student to student competition, but most will do like a classroom or a grade level, and then they reward that at the end.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you could do student to student, and it makes it a little bit harder for certain students, right? But especially on the donation side, but doing it at the classroom level can build some like teamwork inside of the classroom,
great, yeah.
some pride, and look, we have a peer-to-peer fundraising platform, and the part about it that makes it the most successful is the fact that there's competition built into it.
Right.
Because what you described with that one young kid, there's an incentive, right? Mm-hmm. And so the incentive drives behavior, and for him it was the reward, and in other cases it could just be the satisfaction of beating the class next door, or the third graders beating the fourth graders or whatever. I think that's awesome.
Well, and with Handbid, what do you find is the biggest motivator that people, or how are people motivating other groups to do even better? Is it just all just
yeah? It literally there's always a feel good element to fundraising, right? There's no doubt about that. I'm going to an event, you have the speech, you talk about the organization, you draw some tears out of some people. That will motivate certain people to give. But what is equally, if not more powerful, is when the Negebauers raise their hand because they're donating $250 and you get an elbow in your side saying,
you better step
gotta
up.
do it too, right? It's that type of stuff. So it's the competition in the auctions, right? It's why you have to make the bidding process interactive and fun. So our app is designed to vibrate, play sounds, throw confetti when you're winning, do all the things that are going to say to somebody, I'm winning. And the best part is at the end when they say, I was not planning on spending this much money. Right?
Right.
Yes.
Great. I'm glad you weren't.
I was at a fundraiser for an event or a nonprofit that I'm on the board of, and it was hilarious. I've never seen this before, but they like tripled when you talk about that peer-to-peer and that kind of subtle competition. Mm-hmm. Every time a donation came in, they physically announced it and went over to that person. They're like, look what they just did. And they look at everybody else at the table and be like, so where is yours? And they went, and then they took a break. And this was a long fundraiser, but they took a break and they were at like $10,000, $15,000, and they had a goal. They had shared it. And they go, we're all going to dance for a couple songs. Then we're all coming back and nobody's leaving until we're done with this. And they raised $40,000.
Wow.
Like they came, it was truly just like, I don't want to say shaming. That's the wrong word to use, but it was like, hey, if this person can do it, why can't you? And I think they both are really similar, whether it's auction style or it is peer to peer, it is, I can do this. Can you do this too? And let's see it and support that effort.
You'll see people surprise themselves, honestly, and I love it. And when we have clients that come to us and they're like, I don't want anybody knowing anything about what everybody else is doing. I'm like, you can always turn all that stuff off, but you're just going to leave money on the table, And so I get it. You don't want to make people feel uncomfortable, but at the same time,
friendly peer pressure.
You're here to raise money.
It is. I mean, we're all motivated, externally all the time.
I know.
Yeah.
It is. It's one of those things where I've seen that get better over the years, right? As people, and I think experiences change people, pandemics change people. That was a crazy one. But, when we first got started with Handbid back in 2011, tell you how long it's been, we would have people that would say to us, I only want people physically at my event to win the item. So if somebody is remote and they win, how do I cancel their bid? And I'd be like, why do you want to do that? Right. And like, well, because I want to incentivize people to come. I'm like, well, the people that want to come are going to come. But, there's two advantages to people not coming. One, they're still bidding. And 2, they don't cost you any money because they're not eating your food and drinking your drinks.
Right.
So, but they're still spending money. But it took a while for people to get over that and realize, look, yes, part of fundraising is fun, and it's the party part, or part of, a read-a-thon is the fun and the part about reading and making kids smarter, and those are all the great parts about it. But the other part of it is actually raising money. And you have to maximize
it's a very
those
important part of it.
Yeah, you have to ask for it, or nobody's going to give it. And I feel like COVID, obviously, it still is kind of the surreal thing we all talk about every now and then. I feel like I'm just like pre-COVID, post. I don't even know what to say, but I do think that time during COVID really shifted how people felt comfortable and what people felt comfortable with, because you were forced into having to do online fundraisers, right? So it was always this mental thing of, well, we have to have a product fundraiser. We have to have a walk-a-thon. We have to do this in person because that's how it's always been. And now it's like, oh, well, we have to do everything virtually. And then they saw that it actually worked better sometimes, right? I know with Read-A-Thon, that was like a time that we launched. Even our business grew exponentially because
there's nothing else to do.
Well, what do we have to do? Read a book. I don't know, do another puzzle and read a book and walk around the block. But it is. I mean, I think it put people into a situation that was really uncomfortable, and they still had to raise those funds because the world was not ending. Right. And kids still needed to be educated, and nonprofits still needed to do their work, if not even more than they had before. And so I think it really kind of transformed it. And then as things started going back to that normal, it stayed that way because they realized that you can, to your point, have people remotely and make just as much money, if not more. You can have a fundraiser that you don't need 20 volunteers to be separating product, to be, like coming up with crazy themes and running a book fair for a week and a half of your life. You could do it all either virtually or as a hybrid and make just as much and really save a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, I think a lot of our schools figured that out. Like, oh my gosh, maybe every other year I go back to a virtual event because they're easier. They're way cheaper. So do you make as much money? Even if you didn't, I mean, when you looked at how the math worked out, you probably netted as much, if not more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I always say to people when they are talking to us about Read-A-Thon, I'm like, what's your risk? There's literally no risk, right? Right. If you just read and you raise $100, well, good. What have you put into it? We send you everything. You have to sign up, I guess. That's your biggest lift, and let people know what's happening.
So how do you do that? So talking about that, like, are the parents marketing to their networks to get people to come donate? Are the schools giving them tools? Are you guys sending out? I know some of these fundraising platforms do all the emails on behalf of everybody. Like, How does this work with you guys?
So we send everything out on the front end. We send a starter kit, and it has an individual little kit for every student. It's got flyers, reminder sheets, posters, stickers, all that fun stuff that you'd want. We have a guide that helps an admin go, hey, here's some tips and tricks to step up your game if you want, or here's what you do, and this is about how much you'll make. So they all get that. We have all of our messaging every single day. There's a calendar. We send you a text or an email if you want that says, don't forget to send this out to your families, copy and paste it into your messaging system. We have social posts, videos, everything you need is already done for you.
Okay.
And then for the family, they activate their student's account. And if they want, they put email addresses in, they put phone numbers in, hit send, and we send a personalized message directly to those people on their behalf. And so they don't take some 5 minutes. And
awesome.
Yeah. And the families can leave messages back for the student. We can do it globally. And I say globally, we had a grandmother in, I think it was Japan. We actually were flagged, got one of those fraud alerts. They're like, flashing lights coming through. There was a $3,000 donation. This cannot be happening. And so, of course, we did our due diligence, and it turned out the grandmother had never been able to participate in a fundraiser for her grandchildren because of the distance. She's like, I can't buy popcorn or cookie dough.
Right.
I'm not going to go to Japan. I can't do all these other things, but I could do this.
Right.
So she did this massive donation, and I think people like to feel involved. So everything's done for you. You're literally hitting copy, paste, send, copy, paste, send. And then as far as the school themselves, they can also, we have business sponsorships. So a local business could sponsor an ad in the Read-A-Thon, and the school gets those funds too. So it's really kind of a win-win-win. And I always say there is legitimately no upfront cost. So what is the risk?
And how does Read-A-Thon make money? I mean, this sounds amazing.
Submission only. There is no margin in it. No. We take a percentage on the back end
For the donation?
Yep. We take a small percentage on the back end. We're covering processing fees. We're doing all the printing. We're not paying. They don't pay for shipping. So we take a small percentage out on the back end. And that way, if a school does a small amount, they're not feeling like we had to put this money out. There are so many fundraising companies these days that say, we need you to pay X percent up front, what you think you're going to make. And then we'll take that and we'll deduct it from what you actually make. We don't want that. As a company, we want the focus to be on a reading and being successful in a fundraiser, not stressing people out.
Yeah, I get it. I agree, because it puts a lot of pressure on them. But yes, you're right. I mean, some of these fundraising platforms out there are bloody expensive. I mean,
especially the percentage-based ones.
Yeah.
And
then they ask you, and I always feel like it's the smoke and mirrors, right? They'll be like, oh, so we only take 3%, but then we ask people to tip, and then we ask people to handle the processing fee, and then we need you to set up a Stripe or a PayPal account. So we need your banking information. And schools can't always give that out, especially with school security these days. And
I hate the tipping model. Did I say that on a podcast? I did. I hate
once
that
or
thing.
Twice.
I find that so deceiving. I just, because I have so many friends that are donors that have no idea where that money actually goes. By the way, it doesn't go to the charity, for those that are listening. So I just think there's better ways to do it. I like the model you're creating. And, for me, it's like, look, you win, we win, right? And events are a little bit different. I mean, we charge fixed fees for things simply because there's a lot of work we put in with our customers to get their event off the ground, but we let them keep everything else. But when you're doing something purely online like this, I mean, I love that model. And it's like, look, I've got all the tools. I've got everything you need. You guys go do the work, and go make some money.
Well, and you think of these days, I mean, in schools during school time, so many can't even have volunteers coming in. I mean, I can say I worked for a book fair company. I worked for 2 of them. And that became a huge challenge with school security and safety. Right. You have volunteers coming in and out. You have unknown people coming in and out to shop it. And those are a lot of work. And I think it's one thing if you're doing an event, especially if it's an after hours type of event, I think those are great. And I feel like they pair, right? Most schools are doing 2 or 3 fundraisers a year. So I think there's a fit for a lot of different ones. And I always feel bad when people are like, oh, this is a competitive or a competitor or a competitive type of a fundraiser. I'm like, they can fit because they're going to fit with different people in your school community. Right. So maybe somebody loves the peer-to-peer. Maybe somebody loves the reading aspect. Maybe somebody really loves the cookie dough.
Some of it's pretty tasty.
I know. I could sit and eat it and then even without cooking it. I think that's a much better option. Just
but you're getting 60 cents on the dollar. I mean, that's the stuff that drives me nuts. Is like, we used to do a couple of these trade shows and try to kind of really push our auction software and events. And those trade shows were full of wrapping paper and cookie dough and everything else. And it's like, I have nothing really, and popcorn. I have nothing against them. It's just like, they're expensive. But you know what the argument was, which I think you guys could make as strong of an argument, is, well, they're easy. Oh, I mean, literally selling wrapping paper is easy. People want it. It's Christmas. They walk around. My kids walk around the neighborhood. They sell wrapping paper. We deliver it. We get 40% of the money or something like that. Now,
here in Minnesota, especially in Faribault, where we were talking about Northfield before, they actually do manure sales, which I know sounds really odd. But they will sell you your bags of potting manure, I guess. So I don't know
I'd like to see how the kid pitches that. Well, they sell peaches in Colorado, so I know it sounds like a Georgia thing. But
the peaches smell much better than the manure.
But
they're amazing.
But yes, would you like, Uncle Jeff, would you like to buy 64 peaches? Well, I'll support your school, but I don't know what I'm going to do with 64 peaches except for make a lot of pies with them.
You get a whole bunch every month. But I do think, I think there is, I can say as a parent that has done every one of those types of fundraisers over the years and headed up our PTA when my kids were in school, they're a lot of work. Fundraising is a lot of work in general. And so anything I could find, I wish Read-A-Thon had been around when my kids were in school, because it would have been so easy. I spent hours and days, like we had plant sales and I'm bringing vats and crates of plants home and watering them, calling people, begging them to pick up their plants before I killed them.
It's a good thing you didn't have a house full of manure. That would have been even more fun. Come get your, I can't say that word on TV.
He can edit it all out.
That's right.
But yeah, so I think, and in cookie dough, filling refrigerators and freezers. I was asking my neighbors, I'm like, I'll give you one if you'll store 10.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they're big. They are big.
I forgot about that. Yes, there's lots of inventory to pick up with that. Well, I do remember my niece back when she was in DC did a Read-A-Thon and I donated to the site. It was very easy. And I was like, wow, this is better than wrapping paper because A, I don't need wrapping paper. And B, maybe I'm making my niece a little smarter.
And you can do it from afar. They don't have to ship you the wrapping paper across the country.
That's true. Yeah. I live in Denver and she lived in DC. And so, yes, that makes it even easier.
Like, I can thank you for your donation right there and then. And you made a change. Yeah. You made a generational change right there.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love it.
Yep.
Now, do you guys find, I'm going to ask a question back. Do you find that people are on any of these types of events and any of our fundraisers are sharing out the information and using technology differently?
That's a good question. It's gotten better. So I would say prior to the pandemic, we had all the share buttons on a fundraising page and people didn't know how to use them. Right. And there's also like a little bit of Facebook cracking down on, you want to share a page on Facebook and it's changed its rules on how you can do that. I get all that. But even simply just copying a URL and pasting it, people really struggled with it. And I think as people got pushed online, they just figured it out. So I think it's definitely gotten better, but we still get asked all the time, hey, can you auto share my stuff? Or can you give me whatever tools I need that I can then go promote these things through my social media channels. And so we give them a little bit of that, but
it's just making it easy for them. That's the key, is if you make it easy. We have ours as a button. It is a button that says share on Facebook and they push it and it puts it.
And we have that.
Yep.
But and we haven't built this into Handbid. So, I'm just going to feel all guilty about this. I built a peer-to-peer fundraising platform before the one we built into Handbid. And we actually built a really cool tool at the end. So once you donated, it was like, congratulations, you donated. Now tell all your friends you donated. And so it would then allow you to share, and it would Facebook doesn't let you pre-populate stuff anymore, I don't think, but it would say, hey, I just donated to this fundraiser. Here's the link.
Yeah.
But then it would also say, you could say in there, give me 3 emails of people that you want to specifically email and encourage them to also donate. So we kind of built in all of these kind of little workflow things at the end, just to kind of tell. And this is to the donor. Like,
Yeah. Oh, we've built it in now. I mean, not to that extent by any means, but we're even at the end. We like get excited, right? We have 5-star rating. We have like our NPS scores are 8, 9, which I think is great, and people like us and they come back year after year because I always say we are the experts in readathons. we are it. We don't have 10 different types of things. We don't have the jogathon. We'd be good at it, but we wanted to be really, really good at one thing, and that's readathon. And so we've been starting a referral program now where we have at the end of it, if you want to share it out with other schools and tell them about your success, and we'll give you a thank you, right? We're going to give you something. We're not going to take away from the one that books, but we're going to give you that first time some of those dollars from their event. And we want to do that because that just like in peer-to-peer fundraising, peer-to-peer referral is
word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
It's very important. We use it every day.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's peer-to-peer fundraising in a different way.
Exactly. It actually is. So, yeah. And I mean, we can, obviously talk all day long and talk about how we all want to share out the information. But one of the things we find is so helpful is, of course, setting goals for kids and rewarding them for those goals. Because we're dealing with a slightly younger age group than you all are, but we are. I mean, it like if my son sees, and I will remember this forever. He had to participate in this magazine drive. Drove me crazy.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
You remember the magazine drive? Yeah, we all just kind of sigh. This very. Heavy
magazines. I remember those.
Oh, magazines.
Subscriptions.
The magazines. Yeah. And so he had to do it. And it was, you had to sell like 20 subscriptions or you could donate $100 to the school. So I said, let us just donate the $100. I cannot painfully force any of my neighbors to buy another People magazine, another, women's or men's health magazine, Time, like any of those. And he's like, no, but Mom, every magazine order, you get a little rubber duck to hang on your back. Like, just kill me now.
You're on Amazon looking for those rubber ducks.
I ordered rubber duckies.
I'm messaging. I'm like DMing the company. Can I just buy those for $30?
Right.
But yeah, like kids they love their prizes. So we've tried to build in, we have a whole academy kind of testing academy going on right now when we're bringing in kids into our Dallas office and we're lining up on a table a whole bunch of new prizes that they can get this year and making them pick out their top 5. And then we're videotaping them to say, why did you pick these? And they're the most unique things. Yeah.
And they don't even have to be expensive. It can be a little rubber duck and people are going to love it. I mean, I agree with you. Hey, a question for you. Do you guys do streaks too, or is it just minutes?
No, we just do minutes, straight on minutes right now. But that's a great idea. We should.
All I hear about from adolescents these days is their Snapchat
Snapchat streaks. That's right.
So, I mean, you could do both, but you could do like bonuses on like 10-day streak, 15-day streak, 20-day streak or whatever.
Right. That would be a great one just to motivate. Like if you do it every single day for 7 days, you get a bag tag. I don't know.
You get a rubber ducky on your backpack.
It does build a habit too. So maybe they'd continue.
Which is all about what we're trying to do. Because we know at 20 days, we've started a habit. I can't say they're all good ones, but we've all started those habits and it takes 20 days. But that's a great idea on the streaks. Now we do a lot with obviously just the minute to minute, but we try to do something every day to remind them. We have like a video or we have the stickers or we have the contests and things like that to do fun things. I will say anytime it involves something disgusting, that tends to motivate kids pretty well. One school just did, for every class that reached their reading and donation goal that they set, they got to choose one disgusting thing that the principal had to eat.
Oh, gosh. Wow.
I'd put some boundaries around that.
That is a brave principal.
I know. And it was, I saw the video. He sent it to me after and it was great. It was just ridiculous stuff. It was harmless. It couldn't be, anything caustic. But they were just like the worst foods. One of them, they did, true Minnesota style, they did Spam. And his facial expressions were priceless. Pickled pig's feet he had to do. Some jellies.
Yeah, those are all within the realm of possibility. I could see that. You could. Yeah. That to me reminds me of like the ice bucket challenge, right? It's like, dump an ice bucket on somebody's head or something like that. But or if you don't donate to my page tomorrow, you're going to eat something disgusting or something. So,
right. Yeah. And again, that's kind of that peer-to-peer, incentivize.
Yeah, it's the viral fun stuff.
And do a viral thing on that. And they do that. A lot of times I feel like the gym teacher or the Phi Ed teacher has to be the one that's involved. And I don't know if in the school, if it's just the Phi Ed teacher that's always the cool person. But they're like, oh, we're going to make the Phi Ed teacher kiss a pig. We're going to duct tape them to a wall and pull the chair out. We're going to make them camp on a roof. Come on with some really great things.
That's hilarious. I would agree with you. That typically in my school careers, it's always been the physical ed guy or girl or the principal that everybody wants to nail.
Yeah,
right?
why is that?
In the dunk tank or whatever. Yeah, I guess.
Is it the untouchable person or is it just the cool person?
Yeah, I think for the principal, it's the fact that they're supposed to be untouchable. And for the physical ed teacher, it's probably because that's the one wrestling with you at PE
and
class,
acting like an idiot most of the time. Like, yeah, that's so cool. They're just like me.
That's right. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. This has been a lot of fun.
It's very fun.
That's what we said when we opened this up. And look, lots of great ideas. I mean, I think what it boils down to is make it easy, right? Make it easy for the schools and everybody else to do it. Make it easy for the donor. Make it easy for the fundraiser, the students, the parents, everything else. But also get some element of competition in there to drive that behavior. The incentives of the rubber ducky on your backpack, right? That's the trophy, right? Or even just the leaderboard, maybe the anonymous leaderboard of what, the third graders beating the fourth graders, any of that kind of stuff, I think will drive the results that people are looking for.
Yeah. No, I think we all talk about always, fundraising is the necessary evil.
Yeah.
But if you can have fun doing it and enjoy it, and you can make it easy for everybody, like you said, the school or the organization, the kids or the people participating, the donors, I mean, then it's just kind of that win-win-win all the way across.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do our viewers get in touch with Read-A-Thon if they're interested?
They can call us. They can go to our website, readathon.com. They can always email me. It'll be sales@readathon.com. It's on there. They can chat with us. We have a whole little chat function. And they can Google Read-A-Thon. And I guarantee we'll be the first ones coming up.
All right.
Sounds
Go
good.
out there, get on a Read-A-Thon. Start reading. Start getting those kids to read some better books.
Keep reading.
Keep reading. Start reading. Keep reading. Help your school.
Yeah. And maybe your school will give you a 5x credit for reading Moby Dick or something like that. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to talk about that. I think you're carrying a little bit of anger. We're still.
Yeah, you're just going to see the tears of books out there. Read these, are worth more. All right, this has been awesome. Stephanie, thank you so much for your time.
Good seeing you.
Yep, enjoy Minnesota. We love you guys.
Thanks. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up this podcast. For all of you that are listening online or watching on YouTube, happy fundraising.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you're feeling inspired to boost your next school fundraiser with the power of reading. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and visit readathon.com to learn more. If you enjoyed our show, please take a moment to leave us a review. You can find us on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Don't forget to subscribe for more great content. And if you're a fan of video, check us out on YouTube. Until next time, happy fundraising.